my name is Edward Millar, and I am the new curator here at the Buffalo Art Studio. Thank you, everyone, for the warm, reception. Just the outpouring of support from the community has been really meaningful for me over the last, 3 weeks that I've been here. It's been a fun 3 weeks. So again, welcome everyone. Thanks again for braving the cold out there. I know it's a bit frigid, so we do really appreciate you guys showing up and showing your support for the Buffalo Art Studio. I'd love to thank the board as well. I saw there were a few board members here in the audience. If you guys can just raise your hands and kind of give a moment of recognition. Thanks you guys as well for all that you guys do for the Buffalo Art Studio. Of course, with these M&T Bank 4th Fridays, we have a whole list of funders that help support and allow us to do all of these great programs that we do every month. So we have M&T Bank, who really helps sponsor the M&T Bank 4th Fridays of every month. The Tri-Main Center has been a great support for the Buffalo Art Studio. This series and in general our exhibitions are also funded by the Cameron and Jane Baird Foundation, the Community Foundation for Greater Buffalo, Erie County Cultural Funds, the Downward Foundation, NISCA, Ovation Stand for the Arts, Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts, and individual donors as well. And we really appreciate all of the support and just allowing us to be free and open to the public and, again, do great exhibitions and have a great community gathering like we have tonight. Other than that, I saw there is Shirley in the audience. I would like to thank Shirley. Shirley, your support and just, everything you've done for the Buffalo Art Studio, it's been great, and I hope to carry your legacy moving forward. And aside from Shirley, I would like to acknowledge a lot of the interim team that's been doing incredible work here at the Buffalo Art Studio. There's Kyle Butler, Avi Alexandras, and Gareth Lichty as well. The three of them have really just helped make, especially the two exhibitions that are up they're up tonight that we're celebrating, really make them possible. So again, thank you guys for all that you've done for the Buffalo Art Studio. And finally, I'm going to thank the artists as well, Victoria Dundian and Millie Chen. That's Millie. There's Millie. It's so wonderful that my first exhibit opening has been featuring work, that means a lot, especially to me now, thinking about how the marginalized, the immigrant and migrant voices in the communities are often marginalized, and just, with Millie's work, that we live in very turbulent times. We live in times of great anxiety, and, trying to figure out how we can, either deal with that anxiety, whether we're trying to control it or order it or whatever we can do. Just to try and make it through to the next day. So I really am appreciative, Millie and Victoria, for sharing all of your vision and just your bravery and continuing the work that you guys are doing and the messages that you guys are putting out there. And I'd like to turn the floor over to Kyle Butler as well, who wrote some great curatorial essays to give more introduction on the two exhibitions. So here you go, Kyle.
Hi, I'm just going to read a brief thing. All right, my name is Kyle Butler. I've been part of the interim curatorial team here at Buffalo Art Studio, along with Avi Alexandras and Gareth Lichty. Congratulations and welcome to the new curator at the studio, Ed Millar. My role on the interim team was to write the curatorial essays for Millie's and Victoria's exhibitions. The two exhibitions are quite different materially, but each artist shares a similar socio-political vigilance. Each artist shares a similar socio-political vigilance and a care towards contextualizing their subjects. In Turbulence, Millie Chen indirectly chronicles the histories surrounding the Niagara River, touching on narratives of indigenous culture, colonial conflict, and environmental change. The instances of turbulence are historical markers of sorts, alluding to what's occurred at the site while also acting as symbols of unrest and grave change. Victoria Dondian's exhibition builds out a context around migration, displacement, and around cultures that endure despite disruption. The migrant interviews and news clips featured in the projected videos provide a humanizing and direct look while also alluding to the grander socioeconomic machinations at play. The centerpiece installation provides a more symbolic and dramatic look. The absent figures of the hijabs recall lives lost in migration and cultures disrupted. The hands underneath allude to the labor and the stories of those migrants from which they were cast. I will leave the rest to Millie and Victoria, but thank you.
Thanks for coming, everyone. I'm Millie, and just a brief word about the show, and then if you want to talk to me, I'm here for the next couple hours, I think. So this came out of some years of getting obsessed with grids, and I'll talk more about that later. But this also came about from being invited to show at the Riverbrink Art Museum in Queenston in Ontario, just very close to here. Deborah Antonchik invited me to show there, and I thought, okay, I want to work with the river. I knew I wanted to work with the river. We've lived here, Warren and I, for the last quarter century, and lots of journeys up and down the river, and it has been a big character. It has been a part of my psyche. I cross it every day to go to work, live in Canada, but work in Buffalo. So it made a lot of sense. But prior to that, I started making work based on this concept of the grid and grid as a structure. So just around the corner there are two smaller works that are outside of this series called Turbulence. And those, the first one was from 2022, came out of the pandemic. I was just contemplating, like we all were, a lot of things in terms of the environments we live in. And so one of them contains household dust, thinking about, you know, what we live with day to day, every second of our lives. And then the other one was came out of being commissioned, working with Marable Press here in town, to make something that would turn into a print, and I ended up with this thing I called Nosferatu, Me and the Grid. So that's the smaller drawing around the corner there. And so this concept of the grid came, and I can't really remember where Frank Wilczek came into it, but he's a theoretical physicist, and as I was obsessing about the grid, I came across his writing, and in particular a book called Lightness of Being, which is a pretty stunning book that I recommend everyone read, and it is based on, the other thing I recommend is Carlo Rovelli's Order of Time. That's a more recent reading that I'm obsessed with, but it's just this concept, and essentially from a theoretical physicist's point of view, that everything we understand and everything we do to organize our world is erroneous. And so, there's no such thing as time, for instance, in terms of what we understand it. And then there's no such thing as empty space. So for Wilczek, empty space, and he's not the only one, this is current in theoretical physics, empty space doesn't exist. There's a medium of some sort everywhere. And that's what ties us together, and that's what affects every one of us. Whatever any single one of us does, it affects everybody else. So therefore the grid, and I like his analogy. He often talks about the grid, Wilczek talks about the grid as, he says that humans are essentially like fish, that we exist in water, but we don't realize it, and this water is the grid. Because, again, there's no such thing as empty space, and so if you think about colonizers coming to a land for the first time and saying, oh, it's empty, we can take it over. There's no such thing, because even if it's not human use, which there was always human use, but there would be non-human use as well. So there's always something happening. It's always it's always vibrating. It's always current. And so then this idea for this series came out of all of that thinking, and the idea of turbulence as not just something that is a physical occurrence, which also, by the way, theoretical physicists cannot comprehend. There's no understanding of what causes turbulence. And then also, of course, the way we use the word turbulence in terms of social political events. So, yeah. So it seemed, I mean, I started it around the time of the pandemic, but now that I'm finishing up the series and we're in the climate we're in, the social political climate, and ecological climate, it doesn't seem to, I mean, it's constantly relevant. So, okay. Thank you.